want to say thank you for listening. So our sponsors have given some great deals in this episode. Check these out. This episode of the Real ResQ podcast is brought to you by Breeze Eastern, the world's only dedicated helicopter hoist and winch provider. SR3 Rescue Concepts, because you don't know what you don't know. And RescueSwimmerShop.com, official high-quality apparel featuring the silhouette. Breeze Eastern. They dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. SR3 Rescue Concepts is a training company that can help your helicopter training. They train daytime, nighttime, aerial firefighting, hoist, long line, fast rope, rappel, and more. They can assist your program with standardization and safety checks or just an FAA annual refresher. With the certified flight instructor pilots and experienced crew, they are ready to help your agency keep up to date with current techniques, rules, regulations, and equipment. Plus, right now, SR3 is offering 10% off anything in their web store with the promo code, all capital letters, Real ResQ, REALRESQ. Plus, they are offering 10% from their partners Petzl and their equipment. All you got to do is send an email to info@sr3rescueconcepts.com. Mention this podcast, the Real ResQ podcast, and they'll take care of the rest. 15 years ago, photographer and Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 526, Chris Razok, created an iconic photograph. This photograph depicted the silhouette of a helicopter rescue swimmer reaching down for an outstretched hand in need against the American flag backdrop. The image went viral and became a symbol worldwide for the rescue community and the people they help. Its wild popularity inspired Chris to launch RescueSwimmerShop.com, a web store offering official high-quality apparel featuring his evocative image, the silhouette. T-shirts, hats, patches, and stickers featuring the silhouette are available at RescueSwimmerShop.com, including the flagship design, So Others May Live. Follow Chris and his story on Instagram with the handle @RescueSwimmerShop. And if you are a rescue swimmer, support rescue swimmers, or just tell people you are one at the bar, this gear is definitely for you. When you get to the website, RescueSwimmerShop.com, enter the promo code, all lowercase, one word, RESCUE, RESCUE, for 10% off your order. The Coast Guard has an array of responsibilities. And needless to say, the U.S. Coast Guard rescue swimmer is implemented in quite a few of those. Outside of search and rescue, where we're going into the Bering Sea, going into the Gulf of Mexico, out in the Atlantic, into the Pacific just to save people, we have other jobs. And one of those, our next guest actually brings to the table and tells us a little story about it. It's called the Polar Operations Division, or Polar Ops. And that's where the polar icebreakers go to the North Pole and the South Pole to break way for some of the supply vessels to get in. Well, my friend that's coming on, our next guest, he brings a couple stories from that for us. So please welcome my friend, United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 363, Mr. Jimmy Farmer. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ podcast. Today I've got with me, yes, another Coast Guard rescue swimmer. His name is Jimmy Farmer, United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 363. What's up, Jimmy? How are you, bud?
Good, Jason. How are you, brother?
Dude, I am awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to hearing some of your killer stories. So this is going to be
Hey,
fun.
thanks for having me. What a privilege, an honor.
Hey, listen, the honor is mine. You guys were before my time. Like you set the stage, and I just like there was a standard, and then we had to meet it and then some. So
Yeah, pick up the ball and run with it.
yeah, right. It's awesome. It's
Awesome.
like those sewing projects that you get from time to time. You're like, oh, I've got a bag, but I just need to make it a little better. So you end up putting all these little additional loops and all this stuff on.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like we had this perfect thing, and we just adding a little here, a little there to make it just a little bit better. It's awesome.
Yeah. Polish it up.
So, but for everybody else out there, if you don't mind, would you please introduce yourself, a little bit of background about you and how you got into the Coast Guard?
Yeah, sure. Just before though, I want to tell you again, man, how much I appreciate what you're doing and bringing everything out to these guys. Not only the swimmers, but the professionals out in the field that do just an awesome job every day. I can't express to you how cool that is. And
well, thanks, man.
Appreciative I am of you. And I know you had mentioned, I want to give credit where credit is due, man. Kudos to your wife for sparking that idea. So,
you know how happy she's
Bravo
gonna be
Zulu,
right
young lady. Yeah, good for her.
Thanks, Mel. Yeah, that's some love right there. You know what? I have to
All
actually
right.
hashtag. Everyone will see this from now on. The hashtag, the first hashtag I have it on my Instagram is hashtag I love my wife. That's from her too.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Oh,
So yeah, Jimmy Farmer, rescue swimmer 363, joined the Coast Guard in 90, right out of high school. Almost kind of by default. My brother we're very close in age, and he was a senior, or I was a senior in high school. He was already first year in college, and I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't sure really if I was ready or what I wanted to do at that time. So I looked at the service, maybe GI Bill. Parents were already paying for Arthur, and I said, "Well, I'll join the military. Let them pay for it. Do a few years." Wanted to join the Marines. So I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan. So Heartbreak
nice.
Ridge, I was like, "Yeah, recon."
Yeah.
Then I said, "Well, those guys shoot back too, so maybe that's not going to be good for me if I don't get them first, right?" So
yeah.
my mom actually set a appointment up for the Navy, and went down and talked to him. And I knew I wasn't going to join the Navy. Not that it's a bad outfit, but I didn't want to be out at sea. And so weighed my options and just approached my dad and said, "Hey, I think I might want to do the Coast Guard thing. That you're in the Coast Guard. Why not? I'll give it a shot." So he's like, "Oh, okay. I'll take you down there. We'll go talk to the recruiter."
Nice.
And
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
All right.
We went down there, and the recruiter just talked about boats most of the time, and BM and all that good stuff. And my dad was just kind of looking at him like, "What is your deal?" Because he's in his trops, got his wings on, medals.
So all right. So because you said that, you have to give a little background. So who is your dad? Now I know who your dad is, but who is your dad?
Yeah, so my dad's Master Chief Larry Farmer. Had a stellar career in the Coast Guard, started the program back in '84. As a matter of fact, we were in Oklahoma City. He was at the Institute, and he got the proverbial tap on the shoulder to start this program. They wanted rescue swimmers in the Coast Guard. All stemmed from a Marine incident they had, the Marine Electric.
Right.
And Coast Guard wasn't able to get everybody, but the Navy had a swimmer that they deployed, and Congress said, "Well, why don't you guys do that?" And so, there you go. History was made.
Right. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So your dad
Unbelievable.
is the basically who the man who made the Coast Guard rescue swimmer, the whole program into what it is today. He
Right.
was the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And me sitting there as an 18-year-old really had no clue of what was going on, you know?
Yeah.
I just needed some college money. So long story short, I got sworn in. My dad swore me in, which was pretty cool. Went off
Oh,
to
that's
boot
pretty
camp.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So went to boot camp. Still wasn't sure what I wanted to do in the Coast Guard, but really wanted to get back to Elizabeth City. I wanted to get back to North Carolina. So made some good friends in boot camp. And so CoinJock was on the list. So I think I was number 17 in boot camp. Made good friends with this guy, Brian Bird. And he was right behind me when we were picking. And so he comes and he sits next to me. I had CoinJock on my mind. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to get back to North Carolina, you know, go see all my friends. And so Brian comes up to me and he goes, hey, man, you're picking before me. There's 2 billets for the Coast Guard Cutter Escape. I said, Coast Guard Cutter Escape? I don't want to go with this shit. And he's like, no, man, it's cool. I'm from Goose Creek. It's out of Charleston. You know, we'll be together and we'll know somebody, we'll know each other and yada, yada. And I said, okay. South Carolina is close to North Carolina. I didn't
hoodwinked.
The ship. But yeah, so off. And I love Brian to death, man. But so we go to the Coast Guard Cutter Escape. He picks me up from the airport. We check in, he drops me off, and it was pretty much like, all right, man, see you later. That was it. Yeah, he was off to Goose Creek. I was stuck on a big white one, and for 2 weeks, just wondering what in the world am I doing here? Where did I go wrong?
What the heck happened? This is not how I planned it.
No, wasn't in the cards, but it was I made some great friends. Still got some great friends from that, and yeah. So in Charleston, did 2 years on the Escape. I had put my name on the rescue swim or the ASM school, the AS school list. And man, trying to get to an A school from a boat back then, you know, they want you to go BM or DC or something like that, man. And finally wound up getting to the, got transferred off, did my 2 years on the ship and then got to the MSO. And a great friend of mine, Wyan One Shabazz, asked me what I wanted to do because I was still a non-rate, and explained to him what went on. I'd put my name on the ASMA school list about 1.5 years ago. And he was like, well, what happened? I said, they never put me on the list. Well, he was good friends at the time with Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, who just happened to be in town 8 months after I got to the MSO. And he pulled me aside, talked to him and said, this young man has a story that I want you to listen to. And I explained to him the hurdles I had. And of course, I didn't think much of it. You know, a couple of months go by and I get a phone call, you know, when you want to go to A school, take your pick. And so I went off September, about a year after I got to the MSO, went off to A school.
So you've been in the Guard for about 3 years then?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Which was about the wait.
Yeah.
So lucky for me, when I tried to get my name on the list 2 years ago, they basically factored that in and said, okay, this individual, this is where he should be, you know, give him an opportunity. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, thank you, Petty Officer Coast Guard. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Master Chief Petty Officer Coast Guard. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I had almost went HS. So, you know, I had going back to my boat days, I had pretty much just kind of thrown A school out the window and looked, well, you know, medical field, what can I do? And thought about going HS, but, you know, HS is getting underway as well. And I had had enough underway time. It was great, but I knew it wasn't something I wanted to do for the next, you know, 4 years until I got out to go to college. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I called my dad and I said, hey, man, I said, here's the deal. Maybe I'll just go ASM, you know. And funny, he goes, well, son, I don't know if that would be right for you. I said, well, why is that? Yeah, he goes, well, it's your attitude. You don't have the right attitude. So I don't know if this was for reverse psychology working, but and I have to tell you, he was right. I was a punk kid. I was a handful. So
Dad just called the kettle black.
yeah. So anyway, that was a brief conversation over a payphone on the end of a pier, and so I was having second thoughts, and then but yeah, once I got the phone call to go to A school, I said, I'm in. You know, that's what I'll do for a few years anyway.
Nice.
And 26 years later, yeah.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
that's
so-
awesome. Good for you. You know, it's, you know what? Good for your dad. I'm going to give him props too. A little reverse psychology. Man,
Yeah.
no, it might not be for you, son.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Attitude, son.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, well done. So now you get through school, you get qualified, you're standing duty. Everybody remembers their first case. What was yours?
Yeah. So actually at ATC, we always get searches, you know, whether it's from New Orleans or Corpus Christi, somewhere, you know, if they're done looking, they send us out. But
Which that's ATC Mobile, which Mobile is basically a big training unit for the Coast Guard for pilots and really pilots. They come down there with just a ton of aircrew. The stand teams out of ATC Mobile. And so
yeah,
anyway.
So me and three other buddies got stationed there right out of A school. But anyway, so yeah, the first case, like real case, I remember, we were on a 65. It was a fishing vessel underway. It was, I don't remember how far off ashore it was. It was probably a good 30 miles from what I remember. And they were heading in. It was a father, a son, and his son-in-law, and they were out fishing. And the father had a heart attack. And so he's heading in as fast as he can. They're doing CPR. And by the time, I think our response time to get out there was something like 30 minutes. It was going to take us 35 minutes to get out there. They had already been doing CPR for 15. So wow. I'm factoring it's going to be almost an hour before I get to this guy. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know. So we get out there. He's underway. I mean, he's hauling, but we slow him down. I get hoisted down. I can see him doing CPR. One of the young guys, he's going to town, man, you know. And this is, 35, 40 minutes later. I get down there and I just kind of know right away. I'm like, there's really nothing I'm going to do for this guy. It was horrible, because one is his son and it's his son-in-law.
Wow.
Doing this. And I'm just, it was bad. So I just immediately, I'm like, we're going to hoist this guy. I told I believe it was his son that was doing CPR. I said, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Called up on the radio, told him just to send the litter down and so we can get this guy out of here as fast as we can. That's what we did. Got him up in the helo, which I was lucky. Female flight mech that was on there was an EMT as well. So,
nice. Major bonus.
Yeah, definitely bonus. So talked with her. We went ahead and just resumed CPR. She maintained the airway, did the breathing for me, and I did chest compressions for about 30 minutes. By the time we got where we were going, we were meeting an ambulance, ALS, on the pier. And the family was there. They were going to meet us there as well as the ALS. And so his daughter was there, like the whole family was there.
Holy smoke.
So I'm just like, oh gosh, man, So we landed towards the end of the pier. And the family, I covered him up as best I could to make it just easy for them. I didn't want them to see their dad, just in the condition that he was in. Just kind of had a blanket on him, and passed him off to ALS. They put him in the ambulance as quick as they could. But that was the first real case that I had. And it was an eye opener. And I tell you, man, when you don't know how much you work until you start doing compressions on an individual. Your adrenaline,
Right.
You're wanting to make a difference, man. Even though I knew that in my mind, the time, I was just like, you just never know,
Yeah.
But yeah, wow.
30 minutes of CPR of chest compressions.
Yeah,
I'm going to give everybody out there a perspective that doesn't do this from a day-to-day basis or ever. But most times if you're in the hospital scene and you're doing chest compressions, you have a line of like 4 people and you're rotating about every 5 minutes. So for you to sit there and do it for 30 minutes back to land, there's no doubt in my mind, you are dripping sweat,
soaked.
exhausted. Holy cow.
Yeah, you're drained. You get back, not only that adrenaline dump, but you've just physically put yourself through so much trying to do something for this guy, for this individual.
Well, and then you add into all the emotions that there's a son, the son-in-law, the son-in-law, and then the daughter and the wife. When you land, holy smoke, you have to go through all those wave of emotions.
Yeah. So I think a lot of us do that. When you're going out, you're like, that's somebody's son, daughter, husband, wife, child, and we all have those things.
Yeah.
And so when you go out, man, that's what I think about. I can't speak for everybody, but those are the things I think about. Do I want to be the person that they want out there looking for their family member, and so I always try to better myself, to do a better job, to listen to the guys that, that were my mentors and like, hey, do this, do that, you should be doing this, just to make myself a better swimmer, because I want to find that individual. I want to save that individual. I want them to go back home,
Good for you.
So.
That's awesome. You guys set that bar really high. So, I mean, I try to do the same thing and better myself and train, practice, educate.
Absolutely.
So it just goes to show, like, started with your dad to that reverse psychology to you trying to better yourself. And it has gone across the rate. So fantastic. I love it. So now you were also in New Orleans, which we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Kind of a couple of cases there. Where else were you while you were in the Guard?
So I started off, as I said, in Charleston, Coast Guard Code Escape, went to the MSO briefly, ATC Mobile. From there, I went to New Orleans, back to Mobile, Pop Div, shop, stand team, Hitron, and finished up my career at A school and loved it. Loved every minute of it. Yeah. Made chief, did 2 years in East City and, retired. So what started and ended my career in East City at the schoolhouse. So can't ask for anything better than that, man.
Oh, that's great. Oh, what a way to go, man. It's a great career. I want to I'd like to touch on Pop Div a little bit. So that's Polar Division and Polar Ops, where you guys get deployed on the back of a lot of the icebreakers and end up going around the world. So I do have some questions about that, because that's not something I ever did. And, it's kind of a cool assignment. But New Orleans. So I'm going to touch on 2 things in New Orleans, or I'm going to touch on one thing in New Orleans right off the top. And that is, you earned an air medal for Hurricane Katrina, and it's a pretty good story. So I'm going to read the award that you got, and I would love to hear just your perspective of that whole chaos that came through New Orleans.
Sure.
So Citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal to James E. Farmer, Aviation Survival Technician, Second Class, United States Coast Guard. Petty Officer Farmer is cited for meritorious achievement on aerial flight from 30 August to 2 September 2005, while serving as a rescue swimmer aboard the H-65 and H-60 helicopters during Hurricane Katrina rescue operations. Demonstrating exemplary skill and superlative physical stamina, Petty Officer Farmer participated in repeated rescue missions for over 21 flight hours in the devastated environment. Arriving in New Orleans on the night of 30 August 2005, Petty Officer Farmer was hoisted to a roof on an apartment with 16 desperate survivors. Petty Officer Farmer used great agility to hoist survivors until only 2 elderly women remained, who were trapped inside and unable to reach the roof. Using a small flashlight, Petty Officer Farmer searched and located the women. Displaying great strength, he carried each of the survivors 20 yards through the debris-littered house to reach the balcony in the traditional fireman's carry. Without a sufficient hoisting platform, Petty Officer Farmer kicked down a railing retained by 4-inch bolts and balanced himself on the edge of the unsafe structure. He balanced himself above the toxic waters while simultaneously tending to the trail line during each basket recovery evolution. Returning on 02 September, Petty Officer Farmer deployed to a home containing a trapped double amputee diabetic. Combating skin irritation caused by the toxic water, Petty Officer Farmer displayed exceptional stamina by carrying the survivor over 50 yards through waist-deep water to the only acceptable hoisting area. On the final sortie, following 6 demanding flight hours, Petty Officer Farmer spotted a lone hand waving desperately from the attic vent. Already exhausted, he deployed to the roof and located the survivor, suffering from 5 days of exposure. Mustering his remaining strength, he used an axe to chop a hole through the tile roof and extracted the severely dehydrated survivor. Petty Officer Farmer's actions, skills were instrumental in the rescue of 54 lives. His courage, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended, in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Dude.
That was a lot.
All right. So I understand like the hurricane stuff. I never got deployed in any of the hurricanes. But I mean, I've talked to enough of you guys. I get it. You're going out one after the other. But man, give me a rundown. Like,
so yeah, me and a couple of guys, good friends of mine, Jason Shepard and Blaine Elkins, we were the night guys. We never saw daylight for I think the first 3 or 4 days of the operation. And so that first night we went out there, and it's just pitch black, and you see nothing but flashlights. Dude. It was insane. It was, we're going, oh my gosh, there's a light. Flight mech's going, there's lights over there. And the pilot finally just said, hey, look, guys, there's lights everywhere. Let's just pick a spot and let's just do business. And so we were like, yeah, okay, sounds good,
Come on, pilot, radio, take charge. Huh?
Yes, I mean, the radio traffic was insane. I mean, it was just chatter constantly. And so we just decided, where do we begin? And we were like, let's just pick a rooftop with the most people on it and get to work. So that's what we did. We, saw one, we figured it was probably 20 people, and, came down to a hover, and, we counted a lot of heads and said, okay, let's go to work. And so this was the rooftop, I believe, was mentioned in the award. So I get hoisted down there and talked to one of the gentlemen. There was women and children on there too. This one lady was laying down. She was covered up in a blanket. I thought she was injured. And so I was talking to the guy. I was like, who needs to go? And he's like, start with them. Pointed to the lady that was in a blanket. And I walked over, and she wasn't injured. She had 2 of her children keeping them warm, I guess. It's hot out, but they've been on the rooftop and they're wet. and it's at night. So yeah, I pulled back the blanket expecting, her to be injured or something. And she had 2 kids under there. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're going to be the first to go. We'll get you out of here. Yeah. So, we did a few hoists. They were taking them to Cloverleaf, which was the interstate section. They weren't going to the airport just yet, but that was the quickest spot that they could get them to, where there was medical, there was ALS there. And so we get all but 2 guys off, and he's telling me, hey, my mom is still inside. And so this is an apartment complex. It's like a 4-plex from what I can remember.
And you're on the roof.
I said, well, we're on the roof. And so I'm like, well, how do we get down there? So there's an access down there. We're on the 2nd floor.
Okay.
By the way. So I said, well, show me. And so we go down this little hatch where they had come up from and got down to the 2nd floor. And there's a couple holes in the wall because the water has come up, not all the way, but you can see it when we came down and looked down the stairwell, you could see the water. And I'm like, well, I guess we can't go down that way. So we go through this hole in the wall, get to his apartment or his, apartment, and get into the bedroom, and his mom's on the bed. She was bedridden. I'm not sure what all was wrong with her, but he said, she can't walk, she can't walk. We're not going to be able to take her up. So, I'm thinking, oh, wow. Okay. So I look, and there's just a sliding glass. Thank goodness there's a sliding glass door in her bedroom that goes out to this little balcony.
Yep.
And so I walk out to the balcony and call up to the helo. I said, hey man, here's the deal. We're going to have to hoist her from here. I said, you're going to have to send the litter down, and I'll just pull it inside and put her on this thing, and I'll push her back out to the balcony, and you hoist her up. And they're like, well, how are we going to do that, man? You barely got room to stand. I said, I'll just kick this railing out. No problem. Right. Well, it was a problem. I think I weighed it then. I think I weighed like $160, and so I go to start kicking on this thing, man. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I might be here a while. And I was, standing up, like trying to kick it down like a door.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there's got to be a better way, because I don't want to fall, if the thing gives. So I sat on my butt and just went to one stanchion, started kicking it, and it gave, and then went to the other side and kicked that thing in and made a little platform and gave the thumbs up, send the litter down, unhooked it, took it inside. We lifted her up, with the blanket and sat her in the litter and walked her out, and thumbs up, take her away. And
now I'm visualizing like a short balcony. So it was almost an off center hoist where they can't pick directly plumb. So they're off center a little bit. And so when the litter comes up, it's going to swing out. So you're guiding it with that trail line to get it plumb underneath the aircraft.
Yeah. And they were offset anyway, because from where we were at, there were spun lines, power lines, trees. I mean, this is like right off the street apartment, so they were offset anyway, because when we were doing our hoists, we were in between trees and power lines and the little apartment. So we had a little spot, a little sweet spot, if you will.
Yeah.
Where we were coming in and out. So yeah, pucker factor 100 on that one.
Holy smoke. Let me just kick the railing down. Come on, Jimmy.
Yeah, my little toothpick legs, man, going to work. So,
dang.
Yeah. So that was the first night I went out. Yeah.
It talks about the next one where you went down to the double amputee diabetic too, like trapped in a home.
So yeah, we got that call. I think we were just at that point, we were flying around patrolling, if you will, just waiting to get tasked. And we got a call, double amputee, needed assistance, possible diabetic, something like that. I mean, you didn't get a lot of information during this. And so we got an address. I think most people will tell you, looking at street signs if you could, and, trying to find this house. And
from the air. What's that street down there? That looks like East Street. Oh, that looks like 2nd Street.
So exactly. So we're like, hey man, that's got to be it. So they hoist me down. It's, probably chest deep, waist deep, chest deep water. Walk over to the house and knock on the door, and gentleman answers the door. He's fine. I believe it was his mother that needed help. Basically, they were running out of meds, things like that for her, and he wanted her out. He was going to stay, but he wanted her to go. And so she was taking IV. I don't know if it was medication or what. I can't remember, but I knew that I didn't want to take her through that water. There was no way I was going to put her in a basket or anything to get her out. So where I had walked through, there was a flat piece of grass out in the lawn that was dry. I was probably a couple of doors down, but I was like, you know what, I could probably carry her there, get her there, and then we can hoist her up. So I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And I'll meet you guys, 2 doors down. So picked her up, carried her, at shoulder height. When I picked her up, I didn't want any part of her hitting that water.
Yeah.
So walked her out, man. I'm glad they make us work out. I'll tell you that. Because my shoulders were on fire. Yeah. So got her out, flew her. I think we did a direct. At that point, we were going to Louis Armstrong Airport, met ALS there, and got her the help she needed. So, yeah.
Wow. Now the last one, which I'm really excited about, because there's a couple of things that I've talked to a lot of guys down in Katrina where they had to cut in through roofs to get 2 guys or 2 survivors and stuff. And I had talked to guys that, we were bringing chainsaws down to start with, and then that just got too heavy and bulky. So everybody went to just an axe.
Right.
So here you are flying on one of your last sorties, and how the heck do you see a hand waving out of a vent?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the odds of that? I mean, holy smoke.
Right. So yeah, we're pretty much done for the day at that point. I didn't get the memo on the chainsaw. I wish I did have a chainsaw. But like I said, I was on nights, they're having, all this information is getting passed on days. And, by the time I'm coming in, in the late afternoon, man, like these guys are just down, taking it easy. And I'm coming in and I'm flying, I just happened to have a hatchet. I wish it was an axe, a little more leverage, a little more swing.
So you have this small little short 1.5 foot hatchet.
Right my green helmet bag. I just, for whatever reason, had it in there. And so we're flying, and I'm just kind of skylarking out the window, looking at the houses and the water and just the mess. And we're flying, I don't know, maybe 30 feet, something like that, just to make sure everything's kosher. If we see something, we'll take a look at it. And I'm flying over this house, man, and I see this. I'm like, that's a hand. That's a hand. And so I get on ICS and I said, hey, I think I just saw something, somebody waving, and they're like, they immediately marked the position. We come back around. And so they're looking for somebody. And I said, no, I think it was a hand coming out of the roof, out of a vent. And they're like, are you sure? I'm second guessing. I'm like, am I just nuts?
It
I've
was
been
a
out here too
glare.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So sure enough, man, we circle around and get back on our path. And yeah, there it was, hand sticking out of that vent. And they're like, okay, it's like, how are we going to get to this guy? Because it was, you could tell it was probably up to the attic, 1-story house, but the water line was up past the window. So I'm like, well, I could probably rip that vent off and we could make a hole and I could get him out of there. No problem. Right. So yeah, they hoist me down. I got my hatchet and I'm like, I'm going to cut through this thing like butter. Man. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was work. It probably took me, I'd say 15 minutes. There was a couple of times I had to stop. I was just exhausted trying to cut through this route. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. Finally made a hole big enough where I could see down in, talk to the guy. I was like, hey, is it just you? He had made a home in his attic. I mean, there was clothes and jugs of water, and he'd been living up there, for days. And I did notice when I looked in there, I was like, do you have family here? And he's like, no, they've all gone. I stayed back because I saw kids' toys. And so they'd been living up there. I don't know how long his family had been there or when they got picked up, but he stayed back. And so just made sure I got down in there and just kind of made sure, nobody else was in there. And hoisted them up. And of course, I have to say this, a lesson learned: don't ever let a severely dehydrated individual chug 2 bottles of water because it'll go right through them. It was about a 20-minute flight back.
Yeah.
When that water hit him, man, it went in one end and came out the other. Like, it was horrible. Yeah.
In the aircraft.
So, yeah.
Oh.
And I felt bad for him. I'm like, this guy survived 5 days and, I just let him consume all this water. Of course, I didn't know it I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I'm like, here, man, take as much water as you can. But anyway.
Lesson learned for everybody out there.
Somebody can put that in their book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sips. Let him sip water. Don't let him chug it.
Jeez.
Anyway, so yeah, I got done with that. It's probably 90. We dropped him off at New Orleans. They had finally, that was kind of a hub, Air Station New Orleans. So we dropped him off there and they took him off. And next 30 minutes, I cleaned up the helo and sweating my butt off in 100-degree heat on the tarmac. So,
yeah.
But you know what, man? He got back to his family. So it's all good,
That's awesome, man. Wow. All to see a hand through a vent. Yeah. That is crazy.
Good times, Jason. Good times.
Well done, sir. Well done. You actually had a couple other memorable cases out of New Orleans. And we're gonna end with another a helicopter and Larry.
Yeah.
But prior to that, what other ones do you remember out of New Orleans that really stand out to you?
Gosh. Well, that one particular, that was a good case. And like I said, we'll talk more about that. But I had one, there was a jackup rig. And for those that might not know, a jackup rig is basically just a platform it's a boat. It's got these long pilings that they drive down to a spot and they work. They just jack them up and out in the ocean and these guys work off of them. And so we get a call, jackup rig collapsed. Good buddy of mine, I believe, Brett Fogel. I think he was the other guy.
Brett Fogel. Love Brett.
Yeah. Stellar guy, man.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
I got to serve with him at the A school on my way out. So he was an instructor there. So yeah, that was really cool.
Excellent. Anyway,
so I'm a second class. He's a young buck. And I was first on scene and there's all these good SAMs. There's all these good Samaritans picking these people up out of the water. I think it was something like 18 individuals or something like that had gone in. And there was this, I guess, a crew boat or whatever that had picked almost all of them up, and they were all on the back of this thing. So they hoist me down, and it's kind of like triage at this point, because it's just nutty. It's probably a 30 or 40 foot long boat, and it's got this huge fantail. So I go down there, and I'm just kind of like, hey, who needs to go now? Who needs to go now? And they point over to this guy, and it just, the people separate like a sea of people. They just kind of get out of the way as I'm walking, and this guy's just laying face down on this raft. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking, is he dead? They're like, no, he's fine. He's just, it was the position of comfort for him. And so I'm like, well, we gotta, let's get him over so I can assess him and see what's going on. Is he breathing? Whatever. So roll this guy over, man. God bless him. When I rolled him over, he had this gauze on his face. Rolled him over, lifted up the gauze to see what was going on, because airway. I want to make sure this guy's all right, man. And his chin had split. He had hit the railing, had split. And so it just filleted. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's why that's there. And I just quickly looked at him, looked at his chest. He was breathing. And I'm like, yeah, we got to get this guy out of here. So called up and said, hey, send the litter down. We're going to get this guy out of here as soon as we can. And so it was about a 10-minute flight to where we were taking these individuals if anybody was hurt. Again, it was just an ambulance on a parking lot. And so I get this guy up in the helo, and obviously he can't talk. So I tell him, hey, if blink your eyes once for yes, blink your eyes twice for no. Don't try to speak. I'm gonna take a look and see where you're hurt. And so, I'm just kind of doing my assessment, going down his limbs, cutting his work pants and shirt. And it looked like he definitely had a fractured femur. Couldn't tell if the other one was. So when I cut his pants, I was just like, oh, geez, and now he's I'm thinking, in bad shape. Yeah, he was bad. And the guy never moaned, yelled in pain. He just was looking at me like, hey, man, do what you got to do, because the whole time I'm just kind of looking at his face, when I'm checking his extremities to see him wince or anything. And he just kind of was like, do what you got to do, man, and
holy cow.
So yeah, I'm thinking, should I try to pull traction on this guy? I got 5 minutes left in flight, and I'm like, or let ALS handle it, let them get the drugs in them, so he, do what they do best, right? So I'm like, yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. And so I just got some oxygen on him off to the side on his nose so he can just kind of relax and calm down. And yeah, that was nuts. I'm not sure what Brett did. By the time we got back, we offloaded him and got back. It was, every, small boat in the area was transporting everybody else. But yeah. And nothing, I think, we talked earlier, man, we were doing stuff, if you would have done that, I think anywhere else, you're talking, maybe a air medal or something like that. But you got back to New Orleans, it was just like another day. We were constantly doing that stuff. Me, Brett Fogel, Jay Lyon, Ian Powell, Matt Thiessen, Max Smita. Gosh, man,
good group of guys.
We were turning, yeah.
Were you down with Labo as well, Brian Lobenstein?
No, just missed him. I know he was in. I think it was at Mobile as well, but it seemed like we just missed each other.
Right on
those two stations. But,
he talks about it as well. Just New Orleans being straight out. So
busiest air station at the time, man. Like, it was nuts. I would walk in. It's funny. We had a chief there. Lou Britt, who was an instructor at A school that I knew, and he was the chief there. And I'd come in, he's like, I know you're bagged, go home. You know, that's, if you had duty, you were getting bagged. Like there was no questions. You just kind of went home.
So bags, for anybody that doesn't know, is basically we fly for 6 hours flight time.
Right.
And then the Coast Guard says, okay, you have met your max flight time for the day. You're done for the next at least 10 hours. But so we call it, yeah, you're in the bag. Now, there's variables that you can do around it. So let's say you fly for 5 hours or 5.5, you refuel, you go back out until 7 hours or whatever. But when you land, you're now in the bag and you're not allowed to fly again without command approval. And it's a whole bunch of hoops you got to jump through. So
to
bag out
back to home plate.
Yeah. And that's why actually New Orleans has, so you have your ready swimmer and then you have somebody that's on backup. They're at home, but they're on backup, you know, so you're like half on duty. So.
Right. Yeah. And what a great station, man. I had a blast 4 years in New Orleans. We had such a great crew, you know.
Yeah.
The guys I mentioned, John Green was first class, Lance Kerr, just stellar. Tom Hickey, a lot of Hickey stories. But, God bless Tom, man. Gosh. Anyway.
Oh,
those that know Tom, those that know Tom always have.
You can always share at least one. I'm not opposed to it.
So I briefly met Tom in A school, and he was gung ho, man. Like, just you were like, okay, yeah, dude, settle down, go find your corner, calm down. And so I next ran into him. I was had just gotten to ATC Mobile. Of course, we didn't stand duty, swimmer duty. We stood duty in fueled Falcons. That was the ready plane. And New Orleans would come over and they would do fuel hops. If they were out doing a search in Mobile Bay, seriously, you know, we'd have to fuel their bird. And Tom Hickey was one of them. And so I go out there. He didn't recognize me. And but I recognize him right off the bat. And he gets off the plane and, you know, chest out. And so I'm going to need you guys. Yeah, we're going to need about 1,400 pounds of fuel. And if you guys could, just go ahead and take care of that. You know, just giving us I'm the rescue swimmer. And, you know, I guess he called me non-rates because we're just wearing like T-shirts, you know.
That's hilarious.
Our uniform T-shirts. And I was like, and it took him, it was funny because I'm like, you know what, Tom, why don't you fuel your own bird like that? And he just kind of looked at me like, how do you know, I'm like, Jimmy Farmer, dude, A school. Oh, hey. And then it completely changed, dude. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah, give me that fuel hose. I got you. Don't flip that switch for me, man.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Anyway.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the other things you did when you were in the Coast Guard outside of New Orleans was POPDIV, Polar Operations Division. So you're on the back of cutters or the icebreakers traveling. Did you like save any penguins?
Yeah. So POPDIV, man, I'll tell you,
Come on, that was a little bit of a joke there. You know that, right?
Hey, well, we had a partner we called Rescue, and it was a penguin.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So POPDIV was awesome. One of the best tours I had, doing a south trip to Antarctica, stopping in Australia. Just, I mean, what an amazing job. So anyway, we did a south trip, 2005, to Antarctica. And I'll get to the penguins. So what we do when we first arrive is we set up fuel caches all over Franklin Island and places like this. So, because we're going to be flying scientists around that corral baby penguins and tag them and things like that. So me and I can't think of the guy's name right off the top of my head, but they hoist us down and we wait for them to bring barrels of fuel. Excuse me. And so, we got about an hour in between. And so, we're kind of scoping the land. And I mean, it's Antarctica. And we see this little figure off in the distance, like coming over this, we call them like moon dust and moon rocks, because it's just real dusty.
Okay.
If it's not ice, it's just crushed dirt. And volcano ash is what it is, because McMurdo in those areas. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that, but so we see this little figure coming, and I'm like, what in the world is that? And the guy that's with me, I wish I could remember his name, but he goes, man, I think it's a penguin. It's like, you think? He's like, oh yeah. So we walk down a bit, and sure enough, it's just one penguin walking. And we're like, oh, that's cool. Take a couple of pictures, walk back to the thing. And we probably walked about maybe 100 yards back to our little camp where we're going to set up the fuel cache. And probably 30 minutes later, man, this penguin just shows up, kind of hangs out with us, just him, or her, I don't know, him or her, but hangs out. We dubbed him Rescue, and he hung out with us for a little bit and went on his way, man. So,
what's up, penguin? Come on, Rescue. Yeah. I like that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So we did quite a bit of stuff on our journey down there, Jason, but we had an ice liberty. I wanted to mention this. You might find this pretty interesting. So we had ice liberty. Basically, Polar Star pulls up on a plate of ice, moors itself, and everybody gets off and, plays football, explores, play with the penguins, so forth.
Wow, cool.
So, yeah. So we're down there playing football, and not all the aviators left. A couple of pilots stayed on board. No, for no particular reason. Just, stayed up there and did their thing.
They're on the ship. You guys are out messing around.
Yeah, it's just that, they got the brow over to the ice.
Yep.
All's cool. Half the people are down there on the ice. Well, next thing you know, man, you hear people yelling from the bridge of the Polar Star. Well, the ice is breaking that we're on. The ship is breaking the ice, the weight, causing it to crack on the ice that we're on. So I'm thinking, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
So they start, everybody, they're trying to direct us away from the crack. They back off and they're trying to reposition themselves. Well,
the whole ship, they're like
the whole ship now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because the brow has moved away. There's no way for us to get back on at this point. So they're trying to reposition back onto the ice. Well, it keeps cracking. And so they move around. They finally kind of get back up on the ice, drop a ladder down. And of course, the ladder is up to the forecastle. So a couple of individuals climb up and everybody else is like, no, screw that. We're not climbing this thing. And so the whole time they're moving forward, I believe, trying to stay up on the ice. Eventually you could see the crack on the whole ice shelf. And they're like, how are we going to continue to do this? And so we're stuck on an iceberg, basically, right? This platform, and you hear ready helo on the line. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So me and Sean Collins, one of my good friends, he was the flight mech on deployment with me. We're basically just corralling everybody, like picking a good spot, for the helo to come in and get us off, man. So, and there's videos somewhere. Somebody videoed it from the ship. which is pretty cool. But yeah, you just see the 65 just hopping off the back of the the Polar Star coming and getting us, and me and Sean were, the last two to get off. But I was just like, oh my gosh, man, well, this is nuts. So yeah, good times.
You know what? For the record, you can say you were not officially saved. You were merely getting everybody else saved.
Yeah, part of the coordination of the rescue. Absolutely.
That's right, right. You just so happened to be on scene when it happened.
Yeah, right. Just
wow.
worked out that way.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Dude, good time. Yeah, Coast Guard's fun times, man. That's hilarious. Yeah. I love that. Nice.
Yeah, Steve Ferrand, Greg Mattis, two pilots, Miss Hart.
Oh, I know Greg, Mr. Mattis. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, what a great crew we had for that deployment, that South trip. That was unbelievable.
Now, how long you guys usually gone for that? Is that 6 months or
6 months? Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, you go out to basically you ship everything out to the West Coast to Seattle, and you fly out there, make way to Hawaii, refuel
for a couple of days.
7 days. Yeah.
Yes.
Fell in love with Hawaii. Good buddy of mine that was out there, Jason Schleen.
Love Jason.
Let me borrow a surfboard in his vehicle. So that was awesome. Yes, great guy, great family.
Nice.
And from there you do Australia, another fuel and get supplies. Another Sweet. 7 or 8 days there. Yeah. Hobart, that was amazing. Hobart, Australia.
Oh, yeah. What a good time. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Dang.
Awesome. Then by the time you make your way south and start breaking ice, man, we fly off. We fly all of our supplies to McMurdo, and they break the ice coming in so the other supply ships can come in. So we got 2 weeks in McMurdo, just, chilling and relaxing.
While the icebreaker is making their way, making the channels.
Working, yeah. We're sitting, they call them fish huts, but we're sitting in these huts, drinking beers and living the dream, man.
Yep. You know what? I'm just going to throw it out there. It pays to be an aviator.
That's right. You got that right.
To all my boat friends, I'm sorry. And I still love you too, but I love what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing those. That's killer.
Absolutely.
Dang. Well, let me touch on this again. So we talked about it for a minute, and we are not going to talk about this case. One of the few times that I have an episode like this, and we don't actually talk about the case. So here's a little teaser.
Yeah.
So Jimmy, you got launched out to a helicopter crash off New Orleans, and his name is Larry. I'm not even going to tell you his last name. That everybody has to just wait. So the greatest part about this is the next episode that we're about to have, that's going to be released, or the next episode following this one, is going to have Jimmy and Larry. The first time we get to hear from the rescue swimmer and the survivor. So stand by. It's awesome. It's incredible. I am beyond stoked about having you guys on. So we're going to get ready for that one.
To it.
Me too.
Gosh. Yeah.
But with that, I will go on to a little extra and say, the floor is open to you, my friend. And, if you have anything to pass to the younger generation or guys that are out in the field doing this now, and it can be anything. And I know it's a broad statement, but it's cool because there's some cool stuff that gets said. So the floor is yours.
Gosh, thanks. One thing I do, of course, I've been blessed that I get to go right now, to ATC Mobile and work as a civilian, as a contractor, ALC contractor. So I would say, in the swimmer world, mentoring is such a huge thing. I was mentored by Mike Mill, Clay Hill, Master Chief retired Clay Hill, Matt Fithian, Master Chief Hart, he was second class, John Ungafu. I grew up with these guys in the rate, man, and they just told me, hit the books, learn your job. You'll get the swimmer stuff. It'll come, but to learn your job, because this is 90% of what we do. And I would just say that, man, if for the veteran swimmer guys out there, man, take those young guys under your wing, man, and show them what we do, man. Show them the meat and potatoes, and everything else will make sense. They're going to learn when they get in the Gila. I mean, that's just, sink or swim.
Literally.
They'll get there. Yeah. But just show them, man. These guys are eager to learn, man. They want knowledge. They're sponges, and there's some guys that when I retired and got back here, that were going through A school, Phoenix, Hannah, Jake Pritchett, and Ling, and some other guys. So when I showed up, they were just like, what are you, is that Chief Armor, and they just kind of latched onto me, man. They just knew that, the knowledge was there, man. And they just like, hey, what do you think about this? I want to do this, what do you think about this? And I'm just dumping. And it was good for me too.
Nice.
I loved it. It just, I love dumping knowledge. It's like service wide, right? Like you just want to offload everything and
yeah.
But that's what I would say to the guys out there, man. Like just, it's a brotherhood, and teach them everything man,
Love it. Oh man, such great advice. This is one of the greatest things about this podcast too, is because there's so much of you guys that are given so much knowledge in what you do around the world from everybody. It's been an eye opener for me too. So I love it. I absolutely love it. So Jimmy, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing these stories. Incredible. And that I'm so pumped. I'm gonna have you back. We're doing the next episode with you and Larry. It's gonna be phenomenal. So get ready, everybody. It's coming. So
thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me, brother.
Dude, anytime, my friend, anytime. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Real ResQ podcast. Please take a minute and, like my daughters like to tell me, like and subscribe. Oh yeah. I'm pulling chocks and taking off. But before I go, if anyone out there has a rescue story that they would be willing to share, I would be humbled and honored to have you as a guest. Or if you have any questions about any of the rescues or anything else that we talk about here on this podcast, send me an email. TheRealResQ@gmail.com. That's TheRealResQ@gmail.com. You can also check us out on our Facebook and Instagram page at The Real ResQ. That's at TheRealResQ. I also want to give a special thank you to all of you staying on the watch today. Always remember that when that SAR alarm goes off, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. Until next time, fly safe and swim hard.